Good day, friends. Welcome once again to the abundant life. You must have heard it said, marriages are made in heaven and lived on earth. A friend said, they are also broken in Goa. Jokes aside, are successful marriages possible today? I have often heard or read jokes on marriage and married couples, and let me share one or two with you. Before marriage, love is blind. After marriage, you wonder why you didn't keep your eyes wide open. Another joke says, the doctor asks his patient, "How's your headache today?" And the patient replies, "Oh, she is out of town." Friends, in fact, when I went to invite an elderly bachelor neighbor to my wedding, I recall his cryptic comment, "Good luck, son. Only fools rush in where angels fear to tread." Today, over 40 years later, I remember his words and ask, is marriage really so threatening or frightening even today? I got my answer as I was preparing for this talk, when I was suddenly interrupted by a phone call from a friend. She asked me to come over when possible, to put some sense in her niece's head and her niece's husband's head, both of whom were frequently quarreling and talking about having a divorce. I went over and tried to help. I say I tried to help. My discussion with the family is shared in this talk. That is, what each member of the family said, with simple add-ons by me. And finally, I shall round off with comments of my own. So let's begin with Sharona, the niece, who said to me, "My husband Pius is an only son, a lame duck, with no voice of his own. Whatever his mother Militin says is the gospel truth for him. But I must say, Militin is a liar and has a terrible hold over Pius. In fact, Pius doesn't believe me, nor will he listen to my side of the story. Whenever he returns from the rigs, Militin pretends to be ill and demands Pius's full attention, so much so that he has very little time for me. Again, Pius gives me just sufficient money to run the house, but I have to account for every penny that I spend. On the other hand, he satisfies every whim and fancy of his mother, who demands new and costly items each time he returns from the rigs, even when she doesn't really need them. Items such as a new watch, a new mobile, a new TV, and so on. Friends, this girl told me, "We don't have any children, as I keep having miscarriages, which the doctor says are stress related and has advised me to take bed rest." But how can I take bed rest? I think my rest will only come after I am dead and I am taken away from Pius and his mom. Mind you, I am well educated and capable of holding a job, but Pius stops me, saying, "Who will look after my mother?" In anger, I once asked, "Did you marry me for your mom's sake? Then why didn't you marry your mother yourself to be able to look after her?" He got angry and he came to attack me then. But my father-in-law Leo, who cares for me like I am his own daughter, restrained Pius. Since then, Pius has been talking of divorce, and I feel quite ready to go along with this idea. Again, my mother-in-law is also very greedy, and though my own poor parents gave me a suitable dowry, she is not satisfied and keeps demanding for more and more. Militin is also highly caste conscious, and since I belong to a different caste, she often taunts me and embarrasses me in front of relatives and neighbors. She is jealous of me and envies my fair skin and beauty because she herself is dark and quite ugly looking. A little later, Pius, Sharona's husband, said, "I love my mother very, very much. Yeah, I also love my wife. I feel trapped between the two. Sharona complains about my mum's behavior and says that mum tells lies. I know my mum can never ever lie and will always speak the truth. On the other hand, mom complains about Sharona's behavior, especially her back answers. My mom needs me around as my father is quite old and weak. So I even think of giving up my job for her sake. This makes Sharona angry and jealous, and she says stupid things like, I am blind, I cannot see reality, or that I should have married my mom. I went to hit her. Since then, she refuses to be intimate with me and now wants to separate from me." Let's listen to what Militin, Pius's mother, said. She began by saying, "Frankly, I hate Sharona. I don't know what good Pius saw in her, except for her fairness and beauty. She hardly works around the house, and her cooking is terrible. I myself would have cooked, but I get these palpitations, you know. And guess what? Sharona says, I'm only pretending so that I can have an emotional bond or hold over my son. My husband Leo is no better. He's actually useless. And instead of helping me out, he stops me from shouting at Sharona. Oh, but my son Pius is such a darling, so loving and caring. Beta ho to aisa. I have often told him to divorce Sharona and marry another girl who will be able to look after me. I am making novena after novena that he will do so soon." Leo, Pius's father, had this to say: "My wife Militin is a real witch, very selfish and self-centered. People always said I was henpecked. But what to do? I kept quiet for the sake of peace. I even remember how she used to harass my own parents. And now she's trying to do the same with my poor daughter-in-law. But I thank God that Sharona is quite strong-willed. However, I am afraid she will suffer badly without pious support and may even have a breakdown, God forbid. I am sorry to admit that I pray that Militin gets a real massive heart attack and dies. Then there will be peace all around. Friends, you've heard me tell you the story of the four of them. Now, is that story of Pius and Sharona with their parents unique? Not at all. Variations of these and similar stories abound. From my observations and from my chats with priests and counselors, it seems that divorce, separation, annulments are increasing. I cannot deny there are many successful marriages, thank God. But if I may hazard a guess, 1 in every 10 to 15 couples among the recently married are already contemplating divorce or have applied for annulment. What a shame. What about other couples? They seem to be eking out a miserable emotional existence, living in the same house but barely communicating with each other. Some of them even say, I will continue in this marriage till my children grow up, and then I shall leave him or her. I want to ask you, friends, do you think divorce is God's plan for married couples? Let's see what Mark chapter 10 verses 11 to 12 says. Whoever divorces his spouse and marries another commits adultery. Think about it. I personally believe in marriage and that successful marriages are possible. Therefore, allow me to make the following suggestions for a successful married life. I will firstly address couples to be married in the near future. Do not pay too much attention to the reception and material aspects such as catering, the band, the hall, the dress, the suit, etc. Instead, prepare thoroughly for your wedding mass, which should be the center and focus of your marriage. Specially focus on your marriage vows. I am sorry to say, friends, that many couples break up because they did not take their marriage vows seriously and perhaps said them mechanically. Therefore, a few days before the wedding day, get together and share what your marriage vows mean to each one of you. And please, may I recommend that you do not create your own fanciful vows, but rather stick to what the church has. A further suggestion is that you take every aspect of your vows separately and say, for example, though you are not the most perfect man or woman for me, I still take you for better or for worse. Though you are not the perfect spouse for me, I still take you in sickness or in health. Repeat this formula for each part of your marriage vows and see the difference it will make. What about couples quite recently married? You have heard it said, you are no longer two, but one. How absolutely true this is. Therefore, while you love your parents or siblings or friends, they can no longer become part of your oneness. However, there is one person you can and should include in your oneness. And who is that? That person is God, Jesus. He should be first and uppermost in your lives. Allow God to help and guide you and make your decisions properly. John 15, verse 1 and following says, Jesus is the vine. You are the branches. Therefore, cling to Jesus, and He will help you remain faithful to each other and to your marriage vows, even in deadly sicknesses. Let me briefly give you my own example. My wife became terribly sick in the very first month of our marriage and lingered in pain and in her sickness for 4.5 years. There were many who told me to walk away, but my marriage vows kept me going. I take you in sickness and in health. So if I was prepared to keep my wife in health, I was also prepared to keep her in sickness. Let me ask you a question. Have you married the most perfect partner? And will you have a perfectly compatible marriage 24/7? Certainly not. There will be misunderstandings, even arguments. You may even discover faults and failings in your partner. You may feel cheated. But as 1 Peter chapter 3 verse 9 says, never pay back one wrong with another, or any angry word with another. And instead, pay back with a blessing. Pay back with a blessing, not a curse. Again, 1 Corinthians chapter 13 verse 13 reminds us that faith, hope, and love abide, and the greatest of these is love. What does love mean? To love is to want or will the good of the other, to put the good of the other ahead of your own. This helps one to get rid of selfish love. I read or heard somewhere that in Italian, to say I love you is translated as I want your good and I want what is good for you. But I would like to add, definitely you may want the good for one another, but without allowing yourselves to become doormats, trampled upon by all and sundry. Maintain your self-esteem. Some persons want divorce over petty issues. For example, snoring, belching, bad breath, etc. That should never be among us Christians. Instead, let's focus on the hundreds of good qualities that the spouse possesses. Very importantly, however, there are certain things where the foreknowledge of them demands action, including not entering into marriage. For example, if you notice womanizing, alcoholism, and now so many interfaith love marriages, love jihad for instance, which seems to be on the rise nowadays. It is harakiri for any girl to think after marriage my boyfriend will improve his behavior. Or, after marriage, I shall change him into a teetotaler. Or, after marriage, he will certainly join me in my Catholic faith. Oh no, all this is utter bakwas, as they say, or wishful thinking, and rarely ever materializes. Further, many youth are influenced by what they see in films or on the net or in movies or what the media promotes. For example, attitudes towards abortion, pro-choice decisions, engaging in hedonistic lifestyles, etc. Yes, friends, there is a great need to be discerning in what we watch or read, or else we may get an untrue picture of reality. Likewise, many of our Goan women, or maybe women all over India, watch TV serials, especially Hindi ones, like the Saas Bahu serials, where relationships are shown with terrible messages like, take revenge on your mother-in-law or daughter-in-law or spouse by engaging in either simple, silent treatment or giving the cold shoulder. And at the other extreme, by engaging in diabolical schemes, including poisoning and murder. Again, this should never be done amongst us in the Catholic milieu. Instead, let's try sincere and caring communication. Remember, anger is one letter away from danger. Do your best to save your marriage by practicing dying to oneself. Remember, dying to oneself is a figurative expression. It's not fatal. It involves humility and self-sacrifice, which are at the heart of one's marital life. Never put yourself up by putting others down, especially in families. In the end, all will go down. Similarly, forgiveness offered or requested is very necessary. Some years ago, a popular film called Love Story had the heroine saying, "Love means never having to say you are sorry." Love means never having to say you are sorry. What a damaging philosophy of life. We need to say sorry when we have hurt others. Successful marriages are also those where spouses make time for each other. Remember, your spouse comes first, not your parents, not your friends. We read in Matthew chapter 10, verses 7 to 9, "A man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife. They are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate." Let's keep this in mind and not allow flimsy reasons for divorce and separation. I've heard of cases where mental illnesses or congenital illnesses in one's family tree are hidden from the prospective spouse. When this comes to light, it can become a major reason for marital breakup, as the spouse feels cheated. My own advice to my daughter before she got married finally was never to hide the fact that her mother died of lupus. Now here are some suggestions for in-laws. Just as couples intending to get married have to undergo a marriage preparation course, I feel in-laws also should have a marriage preparation course. I feel strongly that the parents of the couple should also have to make church vows together with the couple. Even if it be just one line, it says, "I accept you as my son or my daughter, and not as my son-in-law or daughter-in-law." Let's take an analogy. A flower does not compete with another flower on the same branch. They both bloom together. This same analogy can be applied to in-laws and what is popularly called outlaws, referring to either the daughter-in-law or the son-in-law. Why? Because when the couple marries, they are now part of one family, just like the flowers are part of one branch. So families, remember, you can bloom together. A video was forwarded to me where some teachers were being given training in group dynamics. The trainer gave each one a blown-up balloon and a toothpick. His only instruction was in the form of one line, namely, the winner is the one whose balloon lasts till the very end. And then he gave the signal to start. The teachers all went at each other like cats and dogs, puncturing one another's balloons till none was left. The trainer made them sit down and then gave them a very important lesson in life skills. He asked them, "Did I tell you to puncture one another's balloons? All I told you was that the one whose balloon remains intact till the end is the winner. So all of you could have had your balloons intact if you did not go and puncture the other person's balloons." The same can be applied to in-laws and prospective daughters-in-law in particular, including sons-in-law. Today, though most families are nuclear, yet joint families still exist. Whether nuclear or joint, let the love of God impel all your thoughts, words, and actions. Pray together. Father Peyton said this so beautifully. The family that prays together stays together. Again, let the Word of God be read and lived out in your homes. Use the Word of God as your roadmap ahead. There is a quote attributed to Abraham Lincoln, which says, "The best way to destroy your enemy is to befriend him or her." Mothers-in-law and daughters-in-law in particular, befriend one another. Don't begin your marriage life with imaginary battle images and how you will win over the other. Think of ways you can befriend each other. Again, 1 Timothy chapter 6 verse 10 says, "The love of money is the root of all evil." As Christians, my fervent request to all parents is, neither should you demand any dowry, nor should you give any dowry. It's high time we eradicate this practice in our Christian community. Likewise, neither should you demand property and houses and other material things. It is said that Bishop Ambrose gave this advice to Saint Monica, who wanted to convert her son Augustine. She told Bishop Ambrose that she was praying to God for Augustine. And Bishop Ambrose told her, "Speak less to Augustine about God, rather speak more to God about Augustine. Speak less to Augustine about God, rather speak more to God about Augustine." What a beautiful message to all of us. Let one and all speak less to neighbors and others about the new daughter-in-law or the new mother-in-law, and speak more to God about them. Friends, there is so much more that I could tell you about having successful marriages. Ultimately, the decision is in the hands of the couple. Let us pray for these couples that they will remain true to their marriage vows. And those couples who intend marrying, keep in mind that success or failure cannot be blamed on anyone else but yourselves. I wish you good luck in this venture. And thank you for a patient listening. Successful marriages are possible today. I can say this with full emphasis. God bless.